There's a question in Germany that keeps coming up, at the local pub, in the news, maybe even in your own head. It's a little uncomfortable, right? But it's there. And honestly, it's a question that needs to be asked. But to find a proper answer, let's set aside opinions and gut feelings for now and look at what the facts, and above all, the people themselves, have to say about it. We're basing this on a pretty comprehensive study from 2024. The researchers didn't just go through files and documents, they did something else above all. They listened, in hundreds of conversations, and now we're going to look at what people are saying and what patterns become visible. So let's start right at the beginning. With what goal, with what hopes, do people actually come to Germany? What drives them? Wow, that quote from the study really hits home, doesn't it? It turns a widespread prejudice completely on its head. Those are the words of someone who simply wants a completely normal, productive life. And the study shows that with this wish, he is absolutely not alone. When you look at all the interviews, a very clear picture emerges. The goals are pretty universal. People want to learn German, complete training, work, pay taxes. In short, they want to be part of this society. But, and this is the crucial point, between this initial ambition and the reality here in our country, there is often a huge gap. A real maze of bureaucracy, of rules, and above all of one thing: waiting. Just imagine that. The path to employment is basically one long chain of waiting. First you wait for the asylum decision, then you wait for a spot in a language course, then for a childcare place, and then for a work permit. Each of these steps can take months, sometimes even years. The main activity is not working, it's waiting. 5 years. You really have to let that sink in. Living in a country for 5 years before you're even allowed to start your very first beginner German course. And unfortunately, that's not an extreme individual case, but a reality that comes up again and again in the study. And the result of this system? Well, that's a pretty sobering number. 53%, more than half of all adults in the facilities examined for the study were unemployed. Not because they didn't want to work, but because they're stuck in this bureaucratic waiting loop. Okay, but what does this endless waiting actually do to a person? It has a price, a damn high price, and it goes much, much deeper than just money. Listen to this. Sane's words are so simple, but they really get to you, don't they? My head wasn't doing so well. He describes how he sat in class and simply couldn't take anything in anymore. After years of forced inactivity and uncertainty, the mind just stops cooperating. Hope is lost, and with it, the ability to learn. And that's not just one person's opinion. The study identifies a very clear pattern here. The researchers call it a culture of broken hope. People who arrive here full of energy and plans are systematically worn down by the system. And there's a term for this that we should look at more closely. Enforced passivity. This is really important to understand. Passivity here is not a character trait. It is a condition that comes from the outside, a direct consequence of a system that forces people to stand still. And that, people, is the decisive point of this whole issue. The so-called laziness is in reality often a learned helplessness. It is not the reason for unemployment, but the result of the long, grinding wait. That turns the entire debate on its head. Now let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Because this situation is not only a tragedy for the individuals involved, it is also a massive contradiction for us as a society. Let's look at the numbers. Take Brandenburg as an example. Over the next 10 years, significantly more people there will be retiring than young people entering the job market. Well, what happens then is pretty obvious, isn't it? A huge gap opens up. And this is exactly where things get absurd. This is the stark contradiction in our system. On one hand, our economy is desperately calling out for workers. We're talking about 400,000 per year. And on the other hand, we have a system that holds back highly motivated people for years, until barely anything remains of their initial energy. And that brings us back to the question from the beginning, but this time we flip it around. Maybe the question isn't even, why don't they work? The question that these facts put on the table sounds more like, why don't we let them work? If the people want to, and we need them, then what exactly are we waiting for? Today's episode covered a report by Blokland from 2024. Do you have questions or topic requests? Feel free to write to me at YouTube at EmpowerMigra.com. EmpowerMigra, Understanding begins with listening.